What happens when a man sees a stranger in danger and a woman, alone in the Wild West, decides she will not run anymore? The sun burned over the Arizona territory like a hot iron on an anvil. The red dust shimmered as Ethan Callaway rode slowly down a narrow trail, his horse Sage moving with tired steps. The year was 1878, but time felt strange out here in the desert, where a man survived on grit, instincts, and luck. Ethan had been riding for 3 days. He was heading south, hoping to find work in the copper mines near Bisbee. The war had ended long ago, but the echoes of battle never left his mind. Sometimes he could still smell the gunpowder. Sometimes he still woke, gasping for breath. Sage suddenly pricked her ears forward. Ethan's hand went to the gun on his hip without thinking. He looked through the thin trees and saw a small ranch house ahead. The boards were weathered, the barn tired, but smoke lifted from the chimney. Someone was home. A woman stood by the fence, trying to mend a broken section. Her blue dress was faded, her hair pinned beneath a worn bonnet. She swung a hammer with more stubbornness than strength. "Ma'am," Ethan called, tipping his hat. The woman spun around and aimed a Spencer rifle straight at him. Her green eyes were sharp and full of warning, though her hands shook slightly. "That's close enough, mister. State your business." "Just passing through," Ethan said calmly, "headed to Bisbee. Didn't mean to startle you." She studied him long and hard before lowering the rifle a little. "There's a stream west of here if you need water. Town's another day's ride." Ethan nodded and started to turn Sage when he heard pounding hooves. 5 riders rushed in through a cloud of red dust. The woman stiffened and lifted her rifle. Ethan could see in an instant these were not friendly callers. Guns low on their hips, eyes mean. Their leader was a big man with a face twisted by cruelty. "Afternoon, Mrs. Whitmore," he called with a smile that had no warmth. "Thought we'd stop by and see if you've changed your mind about our offer." Clara Whitmore raised her chin. "The ranch is not for sale, Mr. Boone." Silas Boone laughed. "Now that's a shame. A woman alone out here. Accidents happen. Ranches burn. Sad things." His men snickered. Ethan felt his jaw tighten. "You threatening me?" Clara asked, her rifle trembling. "Threatening?" Boone said lightly. "No, I'm offering to buy your land for twice what it's worth. If you say no and something bad happens later, well, that's just life in the territory." Ethan nudged Sage forward before he could stop himself. "Afternoon, gentlemen," he said, putting on an easy grin. "Everything all right here?" All 5 men turned, their smiles dying. Boone glared. "This ain't your concern, stranger." "Maybe not," Ethan said, "but the lady mentioned water. Thought I'd ask for a cup before riding on." "You'd best keep going," Boone growled. "This is private business." "Funny thing," Ethan replied calmly. "Usually both sides want to be in a conversation. Doesn't look like the lady here is enjoying this one." The air tightened like a pulled rope. Ethan had faced down men like Boone before, bullies who thrived on fear. He kept his face bored, but his muscles were ready. Boone hesitated. Something in Ethan's eyes made him reconsider for the moment. "We'll finish this later, Mrs. Whitmore," he said coldly. Then he leaned forward. "Think real hard about my offer." He and his men rode off, leaving dust swirling behind them. Clara lowered her rifle, her shoulders sinking. "I didn't ask for your help," she said. "No, ma'am, you didn't," Ethan replied gently, "but you needed it." "You're not from around here," she said. "No, ma'am." "Missouri. Been drifting since the war." She nodded slowly, something softening in her gaze. Somehow she saw the truth in him, pain and memories he never spoke about. "My husband fought for the Union too," she said quietly. "Survived the war, only to be killed here 2 years ago. Claimed jumpers." Ethan swallowed. "I'm sorry." "Those men will be back," she whispered. "I know." She hesitated before speaking again. "You can water your horse at the well. I've got coffee on if you want some. Been a long time since anyone stopped to talk." Ethan followed her inside. The house was small, clean, but worn. Clara poured him coffee with careful hands. Her sleeves rolled up revealed calluses from hard work. "Why does Silas Boone want your land so badly?" Ethan asked. "Railroad," she answered. "My husband figured out they'll need water rights. If Boone gets this land cheap, he'll make a fortune." "How long's he been trying?" 3 months. Started polite, but you saw how polite he is now. "You got any help?" "They quit after Boone's men beat them. Who can blame them?" Quote, Ethan felt anger burn deep. He hated men who preyed on the vulnerable. Before he could speak again, the sound of glass breaking echoed outside. Laughter followed. Clara rushed out, with Ethan close behind. 2 riders galloped away from the corral where flames were climbing the hay. They worked together, throwing water until the fire died. By sunset, the corral was charred, the air thick with smoke. "So much for friendly talks," Clara said bitterly. Ethan watched her, soot on her cheeks, hair falling loose, strong, determined. Braver than many men he'd known. "Ma'am," he said quietly, "you got a place I could bed down for the night? Seems like you could use another pair of eyes." She stared at him, surprised. "I can't pay you." "Didn't ask for pay, just coffee come morning." Her first real smile appeared, small and soft, like a sunrise. "There's a cot in the barn, Mr. Callaway. You're welcome to it." That night, as Ethan lay listening to the quiet desert wind, he knew one thing for certain. He should leave at dawn. But he also knew he wouldn't. Not now. Not with danger coming. Not with Clara Whitmore standing alone against it. What happens when trouble returns to a ranch where danger is already waiting, and 2 people who barely know each other must stand side by side? The slow gray light of dawn had barely touched the sky when a rifle shot cracked through the quiet. Ethan rolled off the cot in one fluid motion, grabbing his gun before his boots even hit the ground. His heart pounded as he ducked behind a feed bin and looked through the barn slats. Riders. 6 of them this time. Clara burst out of the house, hair flying loose. Her Spencer rifle already up, she fired once, and a hat flew off a man's head. He cursed and veered away. "They're after the cattle!" she shouted. Ethan counted the herd, 30 head, and the riders were pushing them hard toward the east. "Skeleton Canyon," Clara warned. "If they make it there, they'll disappear." Ethan saddled Sage so fast, the cinch strap burned his hand. Clara was already on her horse, a sorrel that moved like wind. "Stay here," Ethan shouted. "No!" she snapped. "It's my herd." There was no time to argue. They both charged after the thieves. Dust rose in thick clouds as horses thundered across the uneven land. Ethan's rifle cracked twice, driving 2 rustlers off course. Clara rode with fearless determination, her braid whipping in the wind, her rifle steady even as her horse leapt rocks. They reached the canyon mouth just in time. Ethan swung his horse wide, shouting and firing into the air, forcing the cattle to turn. The herd milled in confusion, bellowing. 2 rustlers wheeled around and came straight for Clara. Ethan's stomach twisted. He fired and dropped one. Clara ducked low and shot the second man's hat clean off. He fled. "They're running!" Clara gasped, lowering her rifle as the remaining rustlers scattered over the hills. They spent over an hour pushing the cattle back to the ranch. They were coated in dust, sweat, and smoke from the earlier fire. Clara's sleeve was torn, and a thin line of blood showed where a bullet had grazed her cheek. Without thinking, Ethan reached toward her face. "You're hurt." "It's nothing," she said, but she didn't pull away. "You ride well for a Missouri boy," she said softly, "and you shoot well for an Eastern lady." She smiled, and for a moment, the world felt gentle. Then, the sound of a lone horse approached. Sheriff Tom Morrison rode up slowly, a lean man in his 50s with sharp eyes and a heavy mustache. "Heard the gunfire," Morrison said. "Figured I'd better check if Mrs. Whitmore was still alive." "As you can see, Sheriff," Clara said, "I'm fine." Morrison looked at the dead rustler on the ground. "Jake Polson. Worked for Silas Boone. Hard to prove it in court, though. Witnesses forget things." "He threatened her again yesterday," Ethan said flatly. Morrison sighed. "I know what folks think, that I'm scared of Boone. Truth is, I need evidence that sticks. But you, he looked at Ethan, you're new, got a name? Ethan Callaway. Morrison's eyebrows rose. Callaway? Missouri Ghost. Heard you were dead. Ethan looked away. Not dead, just tired. You've got skills, Morrison said quietly. Skills we could use. Just be careful. Boone's dangerous. After he rode off, Clara looked at Ethan. Famous? She asked. Notorious, Ethan said. Good at killing. Too good. Folks died because of me. Innocent folks. Her green eyes softened. We all have ghosts, Mr. Callaway. Question is whether we let them rule us. The next days passed in hard work. Ethan rebuilt the barn wall and strengthened the fences. Clara worked beside him every hour. They barely spoke about the danger, but both felt it closing in. One evening at sunset, Clara said quietly, "You don't have to stay." Ethan watched the sky blaze red and gold. "Maybe I'm tired of running." Quote. Clara touched his hand. "Running doesn't help. Ghosts follow." Before he could answer, riders appeared on the horizon. Silas Boone, 8 men behind him. They stopped just out of rifle range. Boone rode forward alone. "I come unarmed," he called. "Just talking." "Talk from there," Clara said sharply. Boone smiled. "I'm making a new offer, $4,000. Cash. Take it and go east. Find a new life. Maybe get yourself a husband." Ethan's hands clenched. "Not interested," Clara said. Boone's smile twisted. "I heard you took in a drifter." Ethan Callaway. Missouri Ghost. Man's cursed. Folks who help him end up dead. The words hit Ethan like fists. His throat tightened. It was true. Every name Boone listed echoed in Ethan's mind. Clara didn't flinch. "Mr. Callaway is my concern, not yours." "Oh, sweetheart," Boone drawled. "Out here, everything is my concern." He tipped his hat. "1 week, Mrs. Whitmore, then I stopped being polite." The men rode away. Clara turned to Ethan. He was already in the barn saddling Sage. "You're leaving?" she whispered. "You heard him," Ethan said thickly. "People die around me." "I'm not people," she said fiercely. "I'm Clara, and I'm not afraid." "You should be." She stepped closer, her voice steady. "Ethan, I need you, not just for protection, for more than that." He froze. "What do you need?" he whispered. "To not be alone anymore," she breathed. "To have someone who understands pain. Someone who won't run." His resolve cracked. She stood there in the fading light, brave and vulnerable at once. He lifted his hand, touched the side of her face. "You're one hell of a woman, Clara. And you're a good man, Ethan." He almost kissed her. He wanted to, needed to, but he stepped back instead. "I'll stay until this trouble passes. After that, we'll see." "One day at a time," she said softly, but danger didn't wait. 2 mornings later, Clara went to check the spring alone. Her horse came back without her. Ethan's blood ran cold. He rode hard until he reached the spring and found Clara standing still, arms crossed. She turned slowly. "He was here," she said tightly. "A man, watching me." Quote. Ethan spotted the boot prints, the cigarette butts, the signs of someone waiting, someone watching. Clara had been bathing, alone, vulnerable. Rage flooded Ethan. Which way did he go? Quote. "Ethan, stop," Clara said firmly, stepping in front of him. "You can't kill every man who looks at me wrong." "I can try." She caught his arm. "Listen to me. I need you to be smart. Not just angry." He looked at her, and slowly, painfully, the fury settled. A storm rolled in that afternoon. Rain poured hard. They ran inside, soaked, breathless. Clara changed in her room. Ethan stood by the fire, shirt sticking to his skin. When she came back, her hair loose and damp, a soft glow in her eyes, something shifted between them. "You didn't ask," she said quietly. What he saw. "It wasn't my place," Ethan said. "Maybe I want it to be," she whispered. Lightning lit her face. She looked fierce, hurt, strong. "You look at me with respect," she said. "Not hunger, not ownership, and that's rare." "You are remarkable," he said before he could stop himself. She stepped closer, her hand warm on his chest. "You make me feel alive again." He swallowed hard. "Clara?" "Ethan?" She breathed. "Tell me the truth." "I think about you," he said, voice breaking. "All the time." She rose up and kissed him, soft at first, then fierce. Everything changed. That night, the storm howled outside, but inside the house, something new began. Something real, fragile, and full of hope. And danger was only 1 week away. What happens when danger finally arrives at the door, and love must stand its ground against men who bring death with them? The night after the storm passed quietly, but both Ethan and Clara felt the weight of what was coming. They moved through the morning with steady hands, preparing the ranch, strengthening the windows, checking guns. Neither spoke about the kiss, or the feelings that had opened, like a wound and a blessing in the same breath. But every time their eyes met, something warm and alive flickered between them. By evening, the sky turned red. A warning. "Tonight or tomorrow," Ethan said softly. "Boone won't wait long." Quote, Clara stood beside him on the porch, the wind lifting strands of her hair. "Whatever happens, we face it together." Ethan wanted to say he would protect her at all costs, but she was a woman who had survived more than anyone should. She deserved the truth, not promises he might not be able to keep. "You're the bravest person I've ever known," he said. "And you're the first man who's ever seen me," she whispered. Night fell slowly. Ethan took position in the barn loft, rifle ready. Clara kept watch from the house window. The air was tense, thick with waiting. Dusk settled like a blanket across the land. Then hooves thundered. Jack Torrance arrived with 6 hired guns. These were not drunks or local bullies. Their movements were sharp, precise. Men who fought for money and didn't care who fell. "Ethan Callaway!" Torrance shouted. "Come on out and talk like civilized men." Ethan fired a warning shot into the dirt. "Talk from there!" Torrance chuckled. "Boone wants the woman gone. You're in the way. Leave, and she follows. Everybody lives." "Not happening," Ethan said, and the shooting began. Gunfire erupted from every side. Torrance's men fanned out, firing into both the barn and the house. Clara's rifle cracked from the window, hitting one man in the shoulder. Another tried to circle around, but Ethan caught him with a clean shot. The attackers regrouped, spreading wider. "Take the house!" Torrance yelled. Ethan's stomach dropped. 3 men rushed Clara's front door. Ethan fired, but couldn't cover all angles. Glass shattered. Clara shouted, her rifle reloading too slow. Ethan dropped from the loft, landed hard on his wounded shoulder, but forced himself to stand. Pain shot through him as he sprinted toward the house. A bullet ripped across his ribs. He stumbled but kept moving. Inside, Clara was backed against the wall, blood on her arm, facing 2 men. She swung her empty rifle like a club, catching one across the jaw. Ethan shot the other, then turned just as the first man lunged again. They grappled. Fists, elbows, grit. Ethan slammed the man into the wall, then drove a knee into his stomach and finally got his pistol up. Before he could breathe, Clara screamed, "Behind you!" Ethan spun just as Jack Torrance entered the doorway, gun up. Both fired at the same moment. Ethan felt a burning pain across his ribs. Torrance staggered, shock on his face. "You're better than the stories," Torrance rasped. Then he fell. Silence. Ethan leaned on the wall, breath ragged. Clara rushed to him, forgetting her own wounds. "You're hit!" "I'm fine," he managed. "You're bleeding." He stopped. Clara's eyes widened in surprise. She looked down at her side, where blood spread across her dress. A final rustler, thought dead, lay outside with a rifle still smoking. Ethan fired and dropped him, then ran back to Clara. "No," he breathed, catching her before she fell. "Clara, stay with me." She pressed her hand to the wound, her face pale. "Ethan," she whispered, "don't talk. I'll get you to town." "Oh, listen," her voice trembled. "The land deed, it's in the Bible, Book of Ruth. Make sure they can't take it." You'll handle it yourself. You'll be fine. Just stay awake. She touched his face weakly. I had so much fear, Ethan, but not with you. You made me feel alive again. His eyes blurred. Clara, please, don't leave me. Not after everything. Don't. I choose my own path, she whispered, always. Then her body relaxed. Her hands slipped away, and Clara Whitmore was gone. Ethan's cry broke the silence of the desert night. He held her until dawn, when federal marshals arrived. Sent by the late Sheriff Morrison before he was killed, they found Ethan covered in blood, surrounded by dead gunmen, Clara in his arms. Silas Boone was hunted down at his ranch, shackled, and taken for trial. Ethan stood witness as Boone's schemes came crashing down, and weeks later watched from a distance as Boone hanged for murder. But justice meant nothing beside the empty space Clara left behind. He buried her beneath a cottonwood tree, carved her headstone with the words she lived by. She chose her own path. Ethan kept his promise. He stayed on the ranch, rebuilt it, protected it, and helped the town grow. He became sheriff, then teacher, then the quiet guardian of the land Clara had died defending. Years passed. New families arrived. Children learned to read. The community flourished. Clara's name lived on in the school, the ranch, the stories told by firelight. Ethan visited her grave every sunset. I'm still living, Clara, he would whisper, like you wanted. And the world you dreamed of, it's real now. The desert wind carried his words, soft and steady, across the land she loved. Their love had been brief, fragile, hard-won. And unforgettable, Clara Whitmore changed everything. And Ethan Callaway carried her flame until the end of his days.